Hello, and welcome back to another Python for Beginners YouTube tutorial. In this session, we're going to be taking a look at data types. There are 4 basic data types in Python, and these are essentially the different forms in which we can store data. What data type something is simply determines what values you can assign to it and what you can do to it. For instance, what operations you can perform on it. The 4 basic data types in Python are integers, floats, strings, and Booleans. An integer is essentially any positive or negative whole number, so a number that does not have a decimal point in it. We could have 15, 27, negative 30,000, or even 0, and these would all be integers. A float, on the other hand, is a numerical data type, and it is a number that does contain a decimal point. So you could have 5.7, negative 12.3, or even 2.0. And even though this is a whole number, it's stored as a float, meaning it's stored with a decimal place. Next up is a string, and string data is what we generally use to store words, but a string is essentially a sequence of characters or numbers, and we define a string by putting it in single or double quotation marks. So for instance, you might have a string Harry, and that is contained within single quotation marks, which defines it as a string. You could also use double quotation marks to define your string, so you might have does. And notice here that you can have capital letters within your string, and it does matter. So the capitalized does is a different string from the non-capitalized does. You could also have a string of numbers. So the string of numbers 1, 2, 3. This is different from an integer of 1, 2, 3, and it will behave differently if we perform different operations on it. And you could even have any other characters in there. So you could have the @ sign, you could have a pound sign, dollar sign, cent sign, whatever. You could have all of those within your string. One character of note is what if you want quotation marks themselves within a string. So we basically just have to use the opposite quotation marks to what we want to contain within the string to make our string. So if we want the double quotation marks within our string, then we will define our string with the single quotation mark. So we'll have maybe Harry, data, Norton. And you can see that I've defined that using single quotation marks so that I can have these double quotation marks within the string. And the final basic data type that we'll look at today is the Boolean data type. Booleans are important for many programming concepts, such as conditionals, which we'll cover in later videos. And Booleans are simply a binary representation. So basically they are either true or false, or 1 or 0. So you could have the Boolean value true, or you could have the Boolean value false. And it's important that you capitalize these because these are Python reserved words. And if you have the Boolean as false, then that will not be stored as a Boolean data type. And you'll probably get errors within your program. And you'll see in many applications that you can also think of Boolean values as 1 or 0. So that's it for our quick intro to data types. In future videos, we'll look at how we can save them to variables and then what operations we can perform on each of these data types. So thanks for watching. If you found this video useful, please don't forget to subscribe to Harry Does Data so that you don't miss out on more great data science content.